Well, hello everyone. Welcome. Good evening. Guten Tag. All that stuff. Make sure my mics are going through so you can hear me. You can see us. There's Tanner.
Hey.
I'll do the proper intro here in a little bit. Let's just make sure everybody's getting on and seeing all the things. Hot dog. Okay, we are live to all three platforms. Fantastic. Es bueno. Okay. All right, well, give me an actual proper intro. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 74 of the Unknown Comics Podcast. I'm Brandon. That's Tanner, and we are your drivers. We're your Uber drivers for this evening, or whenever you happen to be listening to us. On that note, if you are watching us on YouTube after the fact or listening to us wherever you download podcasts, you can catch us live Thursday evenings at 7 p.m. Central on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Just search for Unknown Comic Books on any of those three platforms, and you can catch us live and join in the conversation live. Like I said, if you can't get with us live, then of course you can always watch us again. You can watch us afterwards on YouTube or listen to us wherever you download podcasts. Tanner, how you doing, bud?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm glad to be here.
Good. How is Reapers Creepers going?
It's good. We got a new episode dropping this upcoming Monday.
Nice. Are y'all staying on weekly?
Bi-weekly.
Bi-weekly. That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah. It was every other Monday.
What episode count are y'all up to?
This will be episode 14.
Wow.
We're talking about Lizzie Borden.
So y'all talk about like real life stuff too, not just
Everything horror related, be it real life or pop culture.
Gotcha. And folklore and stuff like that.
We tend to try and rotate between subjects, so we're not
Yeah.
talking about one thing over and over and over.
Sure.
But yeah, this upcoming week we're talking about a real thing.
Have you talked about chupacabras yet?
We talked about skinwalkers.
Yeah, those aren't chupacabras.
That's the closest. Well,
It's Native American folklore. Let's say that. Yes.
we talked about it because of the whole Amarillo unidentified creature.
Oh, the one at the zoo?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So you can buy a poster of it at the zoo.
Oh my gosh.
And
it was so them.
If you want to know my full thoughts about it, you can listen. It's our second episode.
Okay. Reapers Creepers episode 2.
But I personally think it's a hoax.
Yes.
And it was pretty much confirmed to me when in giant letters across the bottom of this poster it says copyright City of Amarillo.
Good thing you mentioned copyright. We'll be talking about that later. Boom. We're connecting it all together. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. And let's go ahead and get started. Let me get my little control. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and, of course, as you can tell, Chris and Darren are not here because we are split between two cons this weekend. So Chris is at C2E2 in Chicago, and Darren is at MegaCon in Orlando. That's unfortunate that both these cons fell in one weekend, but here we are. MegaCon's at its normal period of the year. C2E2, I don't know what that's on about, but I don't schedule cons, so that's not on me. But anyway, so both of those shows are going on. Actually, if you're watching us live, this is Thursday the 30th. They actually, both cons did start today. And so those will be going through until Sunday, which is 31st, 2nd. Sunday is the 2nd? Yes. Mm-hmm. So we'll be in Orlando and Chicago. You can come visit us right meow. So be watching our website for exclusive drops. We'll be having Whatnot shows a ton between the two conventions. Darren and Chris will be and of course just our normal in-store Whatnots. We'll be on Whatnot like crazy. So you'll be able to pick up convention exclusives and just other awesome goodies by going to our Whatnot. So search for Unknown Comic Books on Whatnot. And there you will find us. Star Wars Celebration is next week.
Is it UK this year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So after they get done with Chicago and Orlando, Darren and Chris are flying to London to set up for Star Wars Celebration. We do have an exclusive that will be dropping for Star Wars Celebration, so you definitely want to keep an eye out for that because we'll be dropping that stuff like that on the website and whatnot during the weeks of those shows as well. So big couple of weeks. Tanner, you'll be with me next week as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we will do our podcast next week as well. We didn't do one the week before because Darren and yeah, 2 more cons. These weren't cons that we were at as Unknown Comics. Darren was with David at the con in Mexico City as his representation.
Okay.
So David was at La Mole, I believe that's the con in Mexico City, and then Chris was with Sabine as her rep in Kansas City.
Okay.
So that we didn't have a podcast then. That's when I did the X-Men watch party, which we did get takedowns on YouTube and Twitch for.
Oh no.
I knew it. I had a feeling it was probably going to come. But so it didn't matter. I had people to watch with. That's all I really wanted was I wanted people to interact with while I was watching.
Do you remember when Netflix streaming first came out and you could do the watch parties on Xbox?
You could do that on Disney. Remember, Disney, you could like link together and it would sync them together.
It would do the same thing on Xbox, but you had your little avatar would come sit in like a movie theater at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, we actually right after pandemic started, my brother and I think it was when the second season of The Mandalorian dropped because that was the first one that dropped right after pandemic, and we set up laptop with Zoom with each other, and then we did the Disney watch party, and we all watched it together. It was actually a lot of fun. It was a little weird, but it was better than not watching it together. So, but yeah, that was that was an interesting time period. So we didn't do that. We did the watch party, and then last week, Chris was just like, that morning, I can't do the podcast, and it was kind of too late for me to kind of scrounge anything. So we didn't do one last week, and I apologize for not posting anything. But anyway, so we'll be back next week after this. So, okay, well, that is what's happening at Unknown. Fantastic. All right, it is the time where we just talk about all the things that we geeked out about over this past week or past couple of weeks, really, since Tanner, what have you been nerding out on lately?
I had some big stuff happen here recently. We got Adepticon. At Adepticon, Warhammer 10th Edition was announced, along with the next returning Loyalist Primarch, which is
Lion.
Super cool.
Lion of House Lannister.
It's Lannisters in space.
Yeah.
There's a YouTuber that says Gilliman looks like Joffrey, so they're just Games Workshop is doing the Lannisters in space.
I mean, they're all related, so
yeah,
that is hilarious.
So that came out. I finished reading the Throne of Light, which is the 4th book in the Dawn of Fire series, which is the current saga of 40K.
Okay,
it's
part of the Indominus Crusade.
Yes.
Okay.
As far as hobbies, I've been trying to finish. I put together my Tau boarding party list, so I got them built. Trying to get them.
You're gonna be
painted.
the good guys now, huh?
I got so many things going on as far as miniatures. I have 3 more armies that aren't. They're still on sprues in the garage.
Gosh.
I printed off the bases for them, so that was fun. And then I am right now in the middle of trying to print terrain and paint bad guys for the next session of D&D this upcoming month.
Fantastic. So who are you playing D&D with?
I scrounged together a ragtag group of beginners.
Nice.
So we're all
That's the way to do it.
100% green. I am, I think, going to end up being the forever DM.
Yeah, that's all right.
But it's cool.
It's its own joy. Well, that's cool.
So we had our first actual session last weekend.
Okay.
They rolled really bad. They couldn't kill anything. I started lowering the AC target number on my creatures to help them out a little bit. So they made it through the first little fight, a little dinged up, but it was okay. And then they get to the second fight, which I wrote intending for them to lose for the sake of the story. And they get lured into the woods at night, and then there's 7 members in the party, and then 15 will-o'-the-wisps come out of the trees. And my wife Amanda she had the first in initiative, so she rolls the first attack, and she's like, "Does a 16 hit?" And I said no, and everyone in the room went, oh.
That's pretty rough if a 16 doesn't get you anything. Yeah, that is a no-win situation there. That's funny. Well,
Yeah.
cool. I'm glad you're getting to do that. So, why did I pop the chat down there? That's no fun. Hold on. I don't know what I'm doing. There we go. That's better. All right. So me, I've been playing the crap out of Total War Warhammer 3. I finally bought the third edition, third game on Steam. So now I have all three. I had played the intro to 3 on Xbox Game Pass, but it wasn't with all my other games. So like it didn't port. Plus at the time, Immortal Empires hadn't come out yet, so there was no campaign that was like the unifying campaign. Immortal Empires is now out. I think it's almost been a year since its release. Anyway. So I started playing a Wood Elf campaign on Immortal Empires, and I had not played Wood Elves since the first, because they came out in the first game.
Yeah.
As DLC for the first game, and their campaign in the first game was just not fun. And there are so many good quality of life changes in Immortal Empires and the third game in general. It's a totally different game. And like Wood Elves, like in the first game, Wood Elves, you had to pretty much build an empire just like all the rest of them. Well, that's not really true. That's not what they do. They have their forests. They don't really branch out. So how their campaign, and I believe this is how their campaign was in Mortal Empires, which was 2's big campaign. They've kind of refined it and brought it into the third game. So you pretty much you have Athel Loren, you have the Oak of Ages. Your goal as a campaign is for the Wood Elves to heal all the magical forest around the old world.
Okay.
Or around the world that was, right? Yeah. So there's the Oak of Ages, which is the big one, right? Which is where Athel Loren is. But then there's like Lorelorn Forest, which is in the Empire, and then there's a forest in Araby. There's a forest in Lustria. There's a forest in Nagaran. And so there's all these forests. Well, the Wood Elves can teleport between all these.
Okay.
They use the world routes to actually get between them. So you can actually just pop up and then capture just these. And you're trying to, basically, you're either going to try to conquer the what they call the heathlands, the territories around that forest to try to heal it, or ally with whoever does own them.
Okay.
To heal them up. And then once the forest is healed, you kind of do this ritual and wait like 8 turns. And once you've done it, you can pretty well abandon it. They're good territories to have, just those. But like when Wood Elves conquer other territories, they really can't build anything on them.
Yeah.
They just have their little outposts. So you pretty much trade them away to other factions to kind of gain favor. And like, to me, it is a way more thematic way of playing them.
Yeah.
And really just a lot more fun because, basically, and like Orion has like his wild hunt thing where every 5 turns he goes into wild hunt mode and just starts like, he loves just like leveling settlements. And then after 5 turns, he has to sleep.
That's cool.
That's cool. It's very thematic to how he plays. Right. And it's a lot of fun. It'd be interesting to do multiplayer, which I did find something out about Total War multiplayer, because I know you had bought it on Mac. Mac and PC cannot play with each other. And the reason being, even if you buy them from the same storefront, the reason being is and this happens with a lot of games, it has to do with how Macs calculate a lot of information. They use like floating point calculation is how their chipsets are done.
Okay.
That the servers can't connect that information. Now, here is a way. If you bought the game through Steam, there is a service called GeForce Now.
Okay, I've heard of that.
It's a game streaming service. Basically, it's a cloud gaming service. You can link that to your Steam account, and you can actually play it through GeForce Now.
Okay.
Right? So you're essentially streaming it, right?
Okay.
But that is streaming on a PC client. So even if even if you have GeForce Now on your Mac,
so then you're playing it through your browser.
You're playing it through your browser or the GeForce Now app.
Right. Okay.
But since it's a PC client, then you can connect to the other PC clients. Because if you have it on PC, it doesn't matter if you bought it through Steam, Epic, Xbox. They're still PC versions, so they all can still play together. Mac is just kind of off on this island because of some weird kind of coding thing. So
good to know.
Good to know. Plus, you don't have to have a super powerful PC. You can actually just stream it. But there is a subscription cost to GeForce Now. Actually, you can use it for free, but you have to wait in a line to play it.
Okay.
And then I think you get maybe an hour.
And then they kick you off.
Before you kick you off and you have to get back in queue again. Whereas if you pay, you pretty much get priority.
Okay.
And then I think it's a 3-hour limit. And then there's an ultimate tier, which I don't even do.
Yeah.
But anyway, so there you go. If you, me, and Chris ever wanted to do a campaign, y'all could do it, but y'all would either have to download it to a PC. Because if you own it on Steam, you own it anywhere. You just have to have it, on a PC for them to talk. So there you go. I also, that was a long-winded thing about Total War Warhammer. Hope everybody was interested in that. I'm caught up on Picard as of today. It's an awesome season. Did you watch Star Trek Next Generation?
When I was a kid.
Okay.
I've rewatched handfuls of episodes here and there, but
it is. I mean, season 3 is a love letter to Next Generation fans. I mean, it is. There's a lot of there's just a lot of moments that just make me if you followed a lot of the big Next Generation Deep Space Nine plot lines and stuff like that, there's just a lot of good beats in there, especially 2-3 episodes ago. I had tears. I had tears welling. But it was a really good episode. It's been a really good season, which I think today was episode 7 of 10, so there's only 3 episodes left, which is crazy to think, and then it's done. We caught up on Mandalorian. It's getting pretty good. I'm kind of seeing where they're kind of steering it. And I don't know. It seems like this season, Din Djarin is not as big of a focus as Mandalorians in general.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious to kind of see where they're steering the ship. But you're finally starting to see, this is what, episode 5 is what dropped this week, I think. Yes, episode 5. Man, these weeks are flying by. And you're just now finally kind of seeing who the big bads are going into it. And then, I'm not watching Bad Batch. My daughter is, and she's like, "You need to get caught up, Dad. You need to get caught up." And I'm just, I don't know, Bad Batch is exactly like Clone Wars was for me. There are just some, I'm just like, they're like some arcs inside of them that I'm just like, this is just boring filler. And it's hard for me to want to sit down and watch it. I'm glad when I do, but it's hard for me to focus on it.
I mean, I think you have that with any of the animated shows just because they sell them as kids shows, so they have to fill the time. You have 26 episodes to fill as opposed to 7 or 8.
Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much what I did this week. So, yeah. All right. So tonight's topic, because Tanner's here, I thought of a gaming topic. This one's kind of been on my back burner for a couple months anyway. And I had to have a clever topic name that's kind of vague. The rules are the rules. So the point of this topic is how well, let me go back. And we'll talk about kind of a couple months ago, Wizards of the Coast were pitching ideas for updates to their open game license, the OGL. And it caused a huge kerfuffle because one, it basically kind of restricted companies, not restricted, it just put a lot more stipulations on companies that use the OGL to create content.
Yeah.
And then it also affected those that live stream. And
now, originally, what was leaked would have put a bunch of companies out of business.
yes, yeah, it was pretty rough.
And then they were like, "Oh no, this is how we're actually changing it."
Yeah, so it because of that, I was kind of following along, and then I was seeing a lot of I was listening to some podcasts and watching a lot of YouTube videos regarding really what the OGL is, what the SRD is, the system reference document, I believe is what that's called. Basically, the OGL allows you to use the SRD. Okay, it allows you to publish the system reference document in your rules, meaning that you could actually take the blocks of rules text that are in the SRD and you could publish it in your publication under the OGL, and then Wizards would get their cut, all that stuff. And what the actual legality, what you actually need the OGL for. And come to find out, you really don't need the OGL as much as people, I think, thought. Hello, Fly. That is a big boy. Anyway, so, and come to find out, you can't copyright rules. In the United States and most other Western nations, you can't actually copyright rules. And you've seen this in practice. How many knockoff versions of Monopoly are there?
Oh yeah,
there's a ton. Or of any of the games. The reason Words with Friends can exist and they don't get sued to death by Hasbro is because in the United States and many other countries, you can't copyright rule mechanics. Now, what you can copyright is the verbiage in which those rules are written. So that's where the SRD comes into play.
When you're copying it.
Verbatim. When the layout of the rules, the verbiage used and everything is copied, yes, that can be copyrighted. And then, of course, you also do have IP. You do have intellectual property. You do have trademarks. So we can get over to Games Workshop. There was one of the big changes between, and we've seen it in 40K. 40K, they kind of over time changed it. Age of Sigmar was a big jump in that they got rid of a lot of the generic terms: high elves, wood elves, dwarves, empire, stuff that was just very generic and they could not trademark. And now you started seeing, elves went away to elves.
Now, they've even said it's still pronounced elves. But
yes.
We added the A so we can copyright it.
Exactly. So they changed a lot of aurochs. So they could start trademarking
because
them.
What the courts were saying is this term is too generic. You cannot own it.
Right. And so in order to have those trademarks, they had to change their names. There are things that Wizards has in D&D that are trademarked. A Displacer Beast, a Beholder as a fantasy creature. There are things that are uniquely them that they do have trademarked that you can't bring in without using the OGL. Right? The OGL allows you to use you may not be able to use their trademarks. I'd have to double check that, or it may have limited use of like intellectual property, but it does give you full access to the SRD.
I think according to the new OGL, once you get in the process of getting your project rolling, you get you get a person at Wizards to work with.
Right.
And your license becomes a lot more custom at that point.
And I think their cut starts getting bigger. I haven't looked at the new.
And that depends on how much
revenue you make.
How much revenue you make. And it applies to these Kickstarter campaigns that overnight make $1 gajillion,
Yeah. Yeah. So all that to say is technically for me to publish a setting or an adventure or anything, as long as the intellectual property I'm using is mine. It's my world, my terminology. And as long as I do not reprint the rules verbatim, you can have stat blocks and you can reference special rules and stuff. You technically do not need the OGL to publish and market a supplement for D&D. Mm-hmm. And so when all this came about, there were lawyers that are like, why are people making a big deal about this? You don't need the OGL. Now, the OGL, like I said, allows you to actually take the system rules document and actually paste it in your publication, verbatim. That is one reason you might need it. But if you can reframe the rules or just say, this is a supplement for Dungeons and Dragons, and leave those rules out and just say, hey, if you need the rules, go buy the player's handbook, right?
Yeah.
That's what a lot of places did, and they don't technically need the OGL. It's really interesting. So a game that Tanner and I are about to play after we're done is from a company called One Page Rules, and they legitimately make knockoff games of 40K and Age of Sigmar / fantasy. One, it's their own rule set, period. It is not GW's rule set. It is very, very similar in a lot of ways. But again, GW can't copyright their rules.
Well, no. And at the same time, there's a lot of games that are very, very similar because Games Workshop kind of sets the standards in that genre of game.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I'm sure GW has probably tried to fight them in the past. This fly needs to burn in hell because he is literally trolling us, and he is big boy. He really likes you. But anyway, what's funny is, we're going through these army lists, and I mean, they rename every unit to something just a little bit differently. Like, you can kind of suss out, what it is, but not really.
It went from guard to guardians.
Yeah, just random stuff like that. War dancer, instead of being one word, is two separate words. So it's actually the verbatim non, and it's hilarious that what's crazy is tabletop gaming is becoming such a large market space that I think what the D&D OGL whole debacle really showed was, one, how greedy some corporations can be. Because I really think Hasbro is basically just riding the coattails of like Critical Role.
That's kind of how I felt.
And all that. And they're wanting their cut, right?
Right.
Like they weren't getting paid to start with. It's, and Games Workshop's no better.
No, not at all. They're one of the worst in my opinion.
They're very harsh on you.
They'll take your YouTube channel down. Yeah. They will go out and find content creators, and they will find sculptors that put out STLs.
Yeah.
That if it's named too close to their IP, they will take it down. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. Or they won't let you. Of course, you can't take third-party models into a GW store and play.
No, not at all.
Or to and I think a lot of tournaments that aren't maybe official tournaments, they lose a lot of official support if they allow third-party models to enter in.
Depending on whether you if you're at an actual Games Workshop store, some of them won't even let you use third-party bits on a Games Workshop model.
That's crazy. That's insane. Like that's too much. Here's how you fight that. You get competitive with your model pricing. They're not going to do that.
No.
And that's what it is they know they're cornering their market.
Yeah.
And
they're a miniatures company. They're not a game company.
Truly, which, I say that they sell those codexes for a really good premium. Will that change going into 10th edition? We don't know. Because
I bet you they're still a pretty penny.
Yeah. Because right now they're saying, because they just didn't. When was the last codex they released?
It would have been World Eaters,
which was
February.
Yeah. And they just at Adepticon said, hey, your codexes are good for lore now, but they're get ready to throw them out. And they just dropped one.
We'll give you the interim rules for free, though.
Yeah, well, they did that. They did that in 7th to 8th edition.
You had to buy
the indexes. That's right. That is right.
There was 3 of them. So if you played Chaos, if you had a Chaos army, an Imperium army, and a Xenos army, you had to buy all 3 books.
There were 4. There was 2 Xenos indexes. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. Oh my gosh, yeah. They did charge for the interim rules.
So at least you're getting the interim rules for free this time.
Yeah. Sigmar, they didn't. Sigmar, they did the conversions. You had the conversion PDFs. to where you could use all your old world models
Yes.
into Sigmar. They didn't release anything for the new models, but
also you went almost an entire edition with no new stuff.
yeah.
It wasn't until basically second edition Sigmar that they really started dropping actual Sigmar
new models and
armies.
stuff like that. So, yeah. Which and I think they had done, PDFs patch stuff before in the past, but not to the extent of the indexes. Yeah, it's they make enough money. They're good.
Well, and to me, if you can't copyright the rules, which we just said you can't.
Yeah.
It inspires more creation.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get more games, and I get more happy.
Well, and that's a lot of it is how much has Wizards benefited from other companies creating content. There was a lot of settings and stuff that they eventually just purchased and brought into their IP and started making money because they had a thriving community of other people making content. GW could tap into that if they wanted to.
Homebrew stuff is some of the coolest stuff that you can play with.
Yeah. And I think it's probably more common in the RPG space than it would be in the miniature space, right?
Yeah, there's less capital that you need to have to be able to produce RPG stuff.
Yeah, it's books, right? Mm-hmm. As opposed to, warehousing miniatures and stuff, especially now that books can just be digital PDFs, right? That you can get content out to the masses really quickly. But like I said, all that to say, Wizards eventually backed off a lot of stuff. And they came out and said, "Oh, that we were just tossing that around. That wasn't."
Yeah, I'm sure they'll be just like Games Workshop, and they'll get more and less aggressive as they get chances to. But your homebrew creations are not in any threat of being sued over, though.
What Wizards and GW need to focus on is just making good products that are competitive in the marketplace.
Yeah. Stop trying to corner the market.
Don't make these codexes $60 and they're only useful for 2 years.
They're not even useful for that. They're useful for about a month before they'll release the errata to rebalance them. Yeah.
I think that's one thing I do like about like Infinity. They pretty much say, yeah, you can buy our books, but we're going to update everything digitally. So you're really buying this for lore.
And also even Privateer Press. Their card, you still have to buy the deck of cards digitally, but once you pay for it, it updates every time there's an update released. And
that's a good model. Basically, really all you buy the Infinity books for is lore. Mm-hmm. And their rules are available for free.
Right.
Their army builder is free. Like everybody else does that but GW.
And it drives me crazy to have to buy a codex to play my army.
Yeah.
And I paid for these rules, and then in a month I can't use those rules anymore, and I have to carry around a printed PDF to add to my book.
Well, and a lot of stuff you saw with the D&D, the whole Wizards debacle was they were going after the virtual tabletops too. So Roll20, Foundry, Fantasy Grounds, all those. D&D Beyond's coming out with its virtual tabletop, and they were basically trying to eliminate competition on those.
The movie coming out, they were saying any media that represents D&D at all is going to be under the OGL now.
Yeah. They're just, like I said, they're being anti-competitive, and that is every company's bend, right?
Right.
That's just kind of where they go. It's part of, establishing, your market segment.
I understand that their end goal is trying to make money.
Yeah.
But I do think if they would realize that if you would let these other creators create things in the long run, it probably would make them more money.
Yeah.
Because people, they get hooked on this stuff, and they're going to buy regardless of who it's from, and they're going to buy every little bit that they can.
Well, case in point, remember how GW was at the end of, 8th edition Fantasy, at the end of 7th edition 40K. Like, they had such a stranglehold on everything that nobody was playing it. Like,
and that gave birth to a lot of the other games that we have now.
Exactly. And that's exactly what having like strangling the market is going to do. People are going to go to other places, right? Immediately when all this D&D OGL stuff went out, a lot of these, live streaming role players were already looking at other game systems to move stuff to. And I guarantee you, watch Critical Role. How often do they actually refer to rules? You may see them roll, make checks and stuff like that. They don't talk about the rules. They're definitely not. So honestly, if they didn't say they were playing D&D, it would be really hard to know. They could switch. I guarantee you, they could switch game systems in the middle of a campaign,
and you wouldn't know.
Because it's more about the narrative.
And then it'd be on the burden of Hasbro to prove that they were playing their game.
Exactly. System. Like it would just be such a cluster, legally, that it's just not even worth it. And then, because I guarantee you Critical Role is either looking at a more forgiving game system, or they're just going to create their own.
Right. Well, and then you have these, I don't remember which edition this happened during, but at some point, several higher-ups in Games Workshop got mad, left the company, and then Bolt Action was born.
Yeah, Warlord.
And
Warlord games.
Rules-wise, it's pretty similar to the earlier editions of 40K.
Yeah, it's happened with Atomic Mass was birthed out of Privateer Press. Mm-hmm. Like you're gonna cleave off all these offshoots and stuff. So, so if you want to create D&D material, you can. You don't even need the OGL. You just got to be really careful about how you do it. Don't reference rules verbatim. Don't plagiarize. Just here's what you do: is you take the rules, you put them into ChatGPT, and you say, "Hey, ChatGPT, can you reword this for me?"
There you go.
and then it just basically plagiarizes everything and just kind of rewrites it for you.
Take your copy of the character sheet and go to like Canva and rearrange it.
Yep.
And then you're golden.
All you got to do is, you rename strength as power. You rename, constitution as toughness. Like there are so many ways you could skirt the 5e D&D system and basically make your own game that is exactly the same rules. It can be done because you can't copyright rules. And there you go. All right. So, if you're watching us online, what are your thoughts on kind of game rules and what is and what isn't legal? Leave it in the comments below, and we'll see your comments. Yeah, that made no sense. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, everyone. We hope you enjoyed episode 74 of the Unknown Comics podcast. Tanner, thank you again for joining me this evening. So I'm not sitting here talking to myself.
Getting taken down doing a watch party.
Oops. That'll be on our record for 90 days. Anyway, I know now. I mean, I knew then. But, you see what you can get away with. We'll make a habit of it. We will be back next week, so that is the 5th? No, 2nd? 6th. Yes, next Thursday the 6th. And Tanner will be back with us, so we will have another stimulating conversation next Thursday. Again, if you're listening to us or watching us after the fact, you can catch us live Thursday evenings at 7 p.m. Central on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Again, don't forget to follow us on Whatnot. We are, like I said, Chris is in Chicago and Darren's in Orlando at C2E2 and MegaCon respectively, and they will be doing a ton of Whatnot shows from those shows. So if you want to score some really good grabs from those conventions, definitely follow us there. Of course, you can always find our products at unknowncomicbooks.com, and it is always live and always available there. Thank you so much. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you next time.
Bye.